far-reaching far-left mobs are lobbying Netflix to delete comedian Dave Chappelle's new special, The Closer, claiming it's transphobic. Wait a minute, what did Chappelle say? Must have been really bad, right?
This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on Earth, had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on Earth.
Oh my God, I'm literally shaking. He said what?
Gender was a fact.
No, cancel him. Civil rights groups and irate Twitter activists reacted with a perfectly calm and measured response by claiming that Chappelle was inciting the mass murder of transgender people. With 2021 on track to be the deadliest year on record for transgender people in the United States, the majority of whom are black transgender people, Netflix should know better. Really? Have more than a quarter of transgender people tried to commit suicide because of Netflix comedy specials? Or is there another reason for that figure being so high? Jacqueline Moore, who stars in Netflix's series Dear White People, threatened to stop working with Netflix as long as they continue to put out and profit from blatantly and dangerously transphobic content. Making fun of white people for their ethnicity remains perfectly fine, though. Dear Dave Chappelle, transgender comedians can take a joke, but why are you so unfunny? Can take a joke? Yeah, normally people who can take a joke don't literally lobby to ban jokes about them. Meet the new Dave Chappelle, misogynistic, anti-trans and socially irresponsible. And there I was thinking comedy was about being funny. Now it must amplify the deranged identity politics activist dogma of the mob, or they'll organise to have it censored. You know, because they're so good at taking a joke. But how did the general public respond to Chappelle's new special? 96% positive audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Read it and weep, losers. Dave Chappelle has lost his way. Doesn't look like it. Oh, but the mainstream critics don't like it. You mean the same mainstream critics who fawned over Cuties, a literal pedo movie, while claiming that Joker was slightly above average at best? They gave Chappelle's previous special the same treatment, but the ordinary punters still loved it. Given that they banned audience reviews of the Fauci propaganda movie entirely, I'm surprised they didn't do the same to Chappelle. Can't get any bad reviews if you don't allow reviews. Genius! Part of the backlash to people like Chappelle and Ricky Gervais challenging the increasingly monopolistic cultural power of the alphabet people is woke comedians asserting that they're punching down and attacking helpless, underrepresented minority communities. Take a look at this example from British comedian James Acaster, who, despite not being funny, has been lavishly rewarded with a big mainstream platform.
They walk straight on stage, top of their specials sometimes, do 10 solid minutes just slagging off transgender people. Oh yeah, because you know it's been long overdue a challenge? The trans community. Oh, they've had their guard down for too long, if you ask me. They'll all be checking their privilege on the way home now, thanks to you brave little cis boy.
The entire foundation of this joke is based on the premise that the LGBT lobby is some kind of persecuted anti-establishment underground resistance movement. Now that is funny. In reality, the LGBT movement is the establishment. Their flag is literally flown over every government building and cultural institution, and now even outside US embassies. The trans flag literally flew over Parliament Square in London for an entire month this summer. Because what could be more edgy and anti-establishment than having your colours proudly displayed in the capital city of a major country by the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors? Oh my God, so edgy. In the UK, you can literally be arrested and thrown in prison for making playful jokes about trans people. A 50-year-old mother in Scotland was charged with a transphobic hate crime after she retweeted an image of a suffragette ribbon. People face scorn, intimidation and harassment, firmly insisting that women's spaces in sports shouldn't be dominated by biological men. Glenn Greenwald was savaged by Twitter mobs merely for discussing the results of a Gallup poll on trans identification. In the UK, our two major establishment political parties are afraid of using the word woman for fear of offending the trans lobby. When your movement has the power to control thought by changing language, when you can rely on the power of the media to dehumanize and destroy your critics, while relying on the power of the state to have them arrested, that kind of suggests that you're not an oppressed minority group anymore, and that in fact, you are the establishment.
There are some people that should be afraid of me, and that they are, because I represent moderation and diversity. I have power. They can't take it away from me.
So no, people like Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle aren't punching down if they make a joke about trans issues or express an opinion on gender. They're punching up. These groups wield enormous political, cultural and sensorial power They are the new establishment. And let's be clear, just like J.K. Rowling, it's not like Dave Chappelle's some right-wing bigot, is it? Last year, he devoted an entire Netflix special to George Floyd, BLM, and the history of slavery. Chappelle has made fun of white people, black people, everyone. You know, like comedians are supposed to, which just goes to show, you take on these people merely by cracking a joke about them, and you're in the firing line.
No matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people.
But here's the good news. Despite Chappelle being viciously targeted by an extremist minority mob, a faction which, despite being relatively small in number, can rely on the institutionalized protection of government, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley, and even the military-industrial complex, Chappelle's view is shared by the vast majority of sensible people. By daring to be a voice for those people, and by proudly proclaiming himself to be Team TERF, Chappelle threatens to disarm their power monopoly. And that's what really threatens them.
I'm Team TERF. I agree. I agree, man. Gender is a fact.
Bill Maher had Matt Taibbi on his show. We all Matt Taibbi is a soft-spoken guy who tells the truth about Russiagate. So Matt Taibbi went on the Bill Maher show, and Bill Maher is trying to pretend Russiagate is real, even though every time somebody does an investigation about it, it turns out that it's not real, right? The dossier completely made up, nothing true in it. We just caught Hillary Clinton's lawyer planting false Russiagate stories with the FBI, so much so that he's now indicted because of it by Joe Biden's Justice Department. Not by Trump, Joe Biden indicted that guy, Hillary Clinton's lawyer. So watch what, and so Bill Maher, who has the ability to just ignore every fact in the world that contradicts his shit-lit narrative, he says this to Matt Taibbi. This was Friday.
Read you, Matt Taibbi, as I always do, about Russia. That seems to be what you're saying, the Russia-Trump connection.